The modern family. Let us bridge the gap between generations. Let us shape up the modern family. The modern family. The modern family. Join the discussion and give us your feedback. Live with Hatem Al Abdussalam. The modern family.
I always thought about, and I just wanted to be there with you. The place that no eye has ever seen. The place that no heart has ever felt.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, all praise be to Allah, the Lord of the heavens and the earth, and peace and blessings be upon our beloved messenger. Dear listeners, I'm your host, Hatem Al Abdussalam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for tuning in on 90.4 FM. We are here in your favorite program, The Modern Family. We're back. We started last season in the holy month of Ramadan. For the whole month of Ramadan, we started this program, and many of our fans have asked us to continue this program, and alhamdulillah, with the grace of Almighty Allah, we're able to continue this program, this parenting program. For those who don't know this program, it's a parenting program. We talk about issues to support the parents on how to raise their kids in the best way, and we invite specialists from different backgrounds to come and talk to us and tell us their views on some issues. Now, before we start today's program, would like to thank our sound engineer, Mr. Ayyub Al-Busaidi, for being here with us, and our honorable guest. I will introduce him in a minute. But before that, I just wanted to say that we're dedicating this show to our friend and brother and colleague, Dr. Wa'il Al-Harrasi, and we really wished that he was here with us today. And we pray for Almighty Allah to make it easy on him, and so that he can join us back on the show, because he's the mastermind of this show since the beginning. It was his idea, and he did all the preparations and the topics and the guests, and mashallah, he added a lot to the program. So we pray to Almighty Allah that Dr. Weil can join us again on the program. Now let us get to today's open topic. Before that, I'll introduce my honorable guest, Mr. Muhammad Farouk, who is an engineer in telecommunication, and in addition to that, he keeps a close eye on social issues and trends. Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Muhammad.
Wa alaikum assalam wa
How are you
rahmatullahi
today?
wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me back to the program. It was a wonderful experience during the holy month of Ramadan, and I'm really glad to see that we're going through a continuation of the same.
Thank you, Muhammad, for joining us again. And I know it's a very, very short notice that I called you and asked you to do the show, but Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much for being with us today.
My pleasure.
Today we're going to talk in general about parenting. And later on, throughout the coming weeks, we're going to go deep into more specific issues, inshallah. So today, Muhammad, we're talking about parenting in general. And people from different nations and communities have different definitions about parenting. So you have the people from the East and the people from the West. They all see parenting in a different way. Tell us a little bit about parenting. What does it mean?
Sure. First of all, it's an interesting fact to see that birth, marriage, and death are common denominators in any religion, any ethnic background, any nationality, or any background. Parenting is defined as the process of promoting and supporting the physical, emotional, social, and intellectual development of a child from infancy to adulthood. Of course, being from Middle East and all, we would like to add the aspect of religion as well, which actually encompasses all the other four points that I have mentioned.
Yes. What about when we talk about the West, parenting in the West? Is it the same as the East? How they look at it as being, or is it part of a normal cycle of life, or is it further than that?
Parenting, if you look at the basics like compassion, mercy, love, attention, these are the common denominators across East and West. However, since parenting is affected a lot by the cultural background and by the social setup, there are differences in the East compared to, for example, the West. And since parenting is going through a life or aging process, the changes are constant and they're quite visible as well.
Now, Muhammad, when it comes to parenting, for sure we need guidance.
Definitely.
And we need to find the right sources to guide us to the right way to parent.
Right.
Okay? We either inherit the guidance from our forefathers, or maybe the effect of culture or society.
Right.
That will affect the way we parent. Tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
these
exactly.
elements.
First of all, we have to understand that parenting is perhaps the biggest challenge that we will ever face in our life. Having said that, most of us are the least prepared for it. Hence, we try trial and error, or whatever we feel is the best way. Like you said yourself, perhaps something was cascaded down to us from our grandparents, to our parents, to ourselves. In other words, what we do is a lot how we were parented by our parents without giving much thought into whether this is the right way, or if it's the right way, can it be enhanced or not. So the right knowledge is definitely needed. The question is how many of us are willing to go for that.
So it's an automatic effect that is on you, that if I'm raised in this particular way...
Exactly, that is the best way.
Then that's the best way.
Yes.
And why wouldn't we go further and look for different ways of doing things? Why do you think is that?
Well, there's a very famous saying. It says, why fix it if it's not broken? Again, I feel that this is how people feel. They never drill down, they never investigate this topic. And the most important thing is religion gives clear guidance in this domain. Parenting actually starts before the birth of the child. It starts by the time when you actually engage yourself in the process of looking for a spouse. Then the next stage is when you try to become a role model for that spouse. It's all about winning hearts and minds. And this is followed by when you have perfect harmony in a household. Only then, when you're blessed with a child, that he or she will get your focus and attention and the best way of parenting that child. So the process, you have to go beyond the looks, or you have to dig down a little bit and actually start really early. And Islam provides ample guidance, being a complete way of life in this very crucial phase.
You said something very important, which is parenting starts even before getting married. And once you get married, you start practicing parenting even with your spouse.
Exactly.
This is very important because sometimes spouses get caught in the middle when both of them are not on the same page. So you find the husband raising the child in a different way, and the wife raising the child in a totally opposite direction.
Exactly.
And then the kids suffer.
Yeah.
They become very confused.
Basically, what they're doing is they're creating confusion in the personality of the child. The mother is saying one thing, the father is saying another thing. I do agree with you. They do have to be on the same page, and only then you will be able to create confidence and consistency in the child in terms of behavior. And of course, we'll get to that a little bit later, where we will talk about how important the role of prayer or supplication is for the whole formula to work.
Would you agree that some would say it's good that the spouses are different in the way they deal with this matter of parenting, because they complement each other, or they complete one another?
Well, diversity is good. However, the core idea of Islam is that each time we have any variation which is in contradiction with the teachings of the Quran and Sunnah, then we should look at Quran and Sunnah and come on one platform. In addition to that, for example, if we have other differences in terms of the personality of the husband and the wife, their educational background, their priorities in life, that could be a blessing for the child as well, because he gets to benefit from the best of two separate worlds instead of just having one monotonous same setup.
Muhammad, people would say that parenting changes over time.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the things that will affect parenting that makes it change? Can we say that parenting now is more challenging than it used to be in those days?
Definitely. This has a lot to do with the external factors. However, before blaming someone, we have to look at ourselves, what kind of a role model we are trying to be for our children. I do agree with you that parenting does evolve over time. There are external factors in terms of availability of activities, be they good or not, and how friendly you are with your children. And here I would like to request you to perhaps add something from your parenting style, how you were parented compared to, for example, how you are parenting your children now.
Well, actually, I would say that maybe 60% or 65% of how I parent my children is a carbon copy of how I was parented, or how my parents raised me.
Right.
But with time, we come across challenges maybe they were not there in the past.
Right.
And we either modify the approach a little bit, or maybe take a total different approach when it comes to our children, or even consult our parents on how to overcome these new challenges that have just approached.
Definitely. I'll take you back to the same issue that parenting is evolving. One size doesn't fit all, and guess what? The size is changing. So just like in our jobs, every now often we go for training. Same should be for parenting. Unfortunately, not many venues are available. And coming back to the other issue that you mentioned, certain differences in terms of diversity are healthy. For example, you often hear in Europe the father saying, "Let's play ball," playing ball with the kids. However, here, and I'll speak for myself, I don't remember when I ever played soccer with my dad. So there are subtle differences in the East and the Middle East and the West when it comes to parenting. However, the cores remain the same: love, attention, sacrifice, communication. And I joke with my friends that all the soft skills that you pick up from your office and different courses, try them on your kids. You'll be amazed to see what you get with team building, conflict resolution, negotiation, communication.
The conflict resolution, is it with the kids or the wife?
Well, can be with both.
I'll hold you at that thought. We would like to tell our audience that they can always share their thoughts with us on the program live.
Right.
They can call us on 24602058. They can call us on 24602058. Muhammad, I get back to you. You said something very important about getting trained or being trained when it comes to parenting. Many would disagree with you when it comes to training. They would say, or they would claim, that parenting is something natural, that is built inside you. It's like when you want to eat or drink. Nobody has taught you how to eat or drink.
Right.
You were born and already the DNA inside you says this is how you eat and drink. So parenting is there, and to support what they claim is they say, look at the people who are in living, let's say, in the jungles or in the desert, people with not even 1% of education, like the people in the Amazon, for example. Okay, they parent their children in the best way that they feel, which makes them capable to survive that environment.
Okay.
And to them, that's the best way to parent. And in modern cities, it's a different story. So who taught these people how to parent, how to raise their children? It is just a natural phenomenon.
Well, certain things are instilled in you. I would look at parenting as a skill that needs to be sharpened over time. Plus, Hatim, I don't think any one of us are living in Amazon jungle. So what works for them might not work here in the Middle East or in Oman for that reason. I would like to highlight one more thing. In the past, in Arabia, we hear that parents used to send their children to what's called the interior nowadays.
Al-Badiya.
Exactly, to get the experience, so to speak.
Yes.
To get better parenting, to get better nutrition.
Yes.
That's one aspect of it. However, since the life around us is changing so fast, and I'm not just referring to technology, I'm referring to our relationship with that technology and the onslaught of information that we get 24/7 from multiple channels. This makes it a must that parenting must be updated to keep up with times. This is my point of view.
Okay.
Yeah.
Muhammad, breeding. You know,
Should
you can
not-
only
should
you can
not
only
be-
you can only be a parent through breeding.
Should not.
That's the main channel.
Well, you should
Okay.
not. You should not confuse breeding with parenting.
Okay. Can anybody be a parent? Is it just about breeding, or is it something further, more than breeding?
No, see, parenting is a responsibility.
Okay.
It doesn't matter who you ask this question to, be it somebody from this part of the world or another part, be a Muslim or non-Muslim. In Islam, parenting has been taken up to the level of worship, so you get reward for it. So this should be an additional incentive for Muslims to actually strive to be better parents, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at it from that point of view, responsibility comes with accountability. And this formula has been explained to us. There is no guesswork in it.
Yeah.
So I would like to say breeding is just the easy part,
Okay.
and parenting is the real challenge that separates the boys from the men.
Why is it challenging?
Because you're dealing with another human being, a human being which is depending on you for literally everything. So you're making decisions on a daily basis for someone else, and you'll be held accountable for that. So in other words, they're helpless, and they look at you as their first teacher, as their first mentor, as your first friend, as the first person. When they open their eyes, you're there. You're probably the first thing that they see. So that makes it all the more challenging.
You mentioned something very, very important before the show. You were talking about a quotation that says, "Children hear with their eyes." What did you
Exactly.
mean by that?
Exactly. See, most people neglect this very simple yet powerful statement. You can tell a kid to do something till you get red in the face. Once you leave, he's going to do what he saw you doing. For example, if you smoke, you cannot tell your child not to smoke. He's going to experiment it one way or the other. You are a mirror to the child. They look at what you do and they try to imitate you. Just look at your kids. They'll try to put on the watch like you do. They'll pick up the TV remote and put it to their ear, pretending it's a mobile phone, just like you use your mobile phone. So that really puts you on the stand. I mean, think about it.
Muhammad, you said that we are a mirror to our children. When do we start polishing that mirror?
Well,
Is it too late after having the children that you start polishing
No.
your own mirror?
No,
or
no,
is
no,
it
no.
you should start at an early stage?
You
to
should
polish
start.
the mirror.
You should start at an early age. However, I would not let this statement deter the ones who feel they have missed a train. Our children are growing. As we sit here and talk, they're at home growing. Let's put it this way.
Okay.
However, a lot of us look at parenting and work with parenting as trial and error. Again, I will say lack of knowledge and some other factors. We'll get into them, supplication and practice and things of that nature. So the most crucial thing is we have to fix ourselves before blaming external factors. We have to be a role model for them. And trust me, whether you try or not, you're already a role model for your children. Just ask them.
Okay. We come to a very, very important part of the parenting concept, I would say, which is teaching and nurturing.
Right.
Which is known in Arabic ta'lim and tarbiyah.
Right.
What's the difference between the two, and how significant are them to being together or independent?
Very crucial point. You see, the seeds of Iman are already planted.
Seeds of belief.
Seeds of belief, yeah. Iman, belief, they're already planted in all the souls. This makes the job of parenting relatively easy. All you have to do is nurture that Iman to create a personality that would make the children successful in this life and hopefully, inshallah, in the next life. And even once we are gone, they'll pray for us, and that prayer would be accepted to God. In terms of Talim and Tarbiyah, if you look at it from one angle, both of them seem important, and they are. However, let's say if
so sorry, Muhammad, before you carry forward, maybe you can explain what do we mean by Ta'lim and Tarbiyah.
Ta'lim generally refers to education. Could be the schooling of the child, later on in college, university, so on and so forth, what career you select. So it has more to do with dunya. There is, of course, this world, yeah. There is the Dini Ta'lim also, or the religious education. And tarbiyah, if you can translate it roughly, it means upbringing. It's a very
moral conduct.
Moral conduct,
ethics.
The do's, the don'ts, something that dictates your personality.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you had a choice of talim and tarbiyah, the preference should be given to tarbiyah. The reason being, let's say, for example, you cannot afford the school for your children, for example.
Yeah.
Right? However, the tarbiyah or the upbringing is somewhat in your hands. The talim or the education will let the child survive and thrive in this world, which for the sake of discussion we use 70 years. It could be more than that or less.
Yeah.
However, tarbiyah or the upbringing or the moral conduct, like you mentioned, is something which will carry him or her even after they have gone from here, after they have died. And we are speaking of eternity. So when you have to make a choice, you have to see which one is the greater benefit and for how long. Unfortunately, what we see nowadays, we often, when our friends get together, we talk about which school is the best. It has this kind of teachers, this kind of education, so on and so forth. It's very rare that I see people put their heads together and say, guys, we need to see which institute provides the best tarbiyah, or which environment, or which society, or what can we do to address this aspect instead of waiting for somebody else to fix this for us.
For Muslims, this is very, very clear, the concept of tarbiyah.
Definitely.
What about for non-Muslims? They would, for the sake of argument, they would say, why is this important? What will happen if there is no tarbiyah? The lack of tarbiyah?
Right. See, the thing is, if you upbring these tender and delicate souls without the proper upbringing or the morals, the results are detrimental. And there are ample examples which we see happening in the West, and some of them even happening in the other parts of the world, not just the West. What happens is, when you just have a relationship with them that says, do this, don't do that, why did you do this, or why you didn't do that, and you never have a meaningful conversation with your child, when they grow up, they're just waiting to get rid of you. They look at you as authority. They will probably rebel.
At the age of maybe 15, puberty?
Well, teens or even preteens. Okay? They would not listen to you. So if you come and say, well, you have to do this because I'm your father, they would not do it. And in extreme...
Become, so what if you're my father?
Yeah, exactly. And in cases, they would run away from home. And then they become a problem of the society, because before it was an internal issue, now they're out there. And out of curiosity, they would like to experiment with different things, which all of them might not be very healthy.
I just wanted to add is that just for example, at the age of the 18, when they are fully matured and they are allowed, or legally they are allowed to have independent lives, and then they start disassociating themselves with their families, and there is no connection whatsoever, and the umbrella that they have been living under has disappeared, the guidance, and they start going out trying to experiment new things, and sometimes it's trial and error, and they might get into trouble. Now, but what happens on the other way around, where you have the umbrella of the family, the guidance, and the concept of tarbiyah sticks with you even once you're mature.
Exactly. Even once they become parents, they are still respectful to their own parents. So the chain continues. The idea of maturity is, again, a subjective one. Like, for example, in Islam, they are referred to as being adults when they hit 13 or 14, like you mentioned, the teen years. So they're responsible for their deeds in terms of sins or reward. In the West, the story is quite different. Like you mentioned yourself, for example, till the night of the birthday of the 18th, they are considered 21 years, they're considered minors. And then 12 in the morning, they become adults. And a lot of them don't know how to handle adulthood. And this not only becomes, in most cases, harmful to them, but to the state as well. This is a new...
In what way?
Well, like you mentioned, a number of them experiment with different things. They are reckless. They don't have that level of responsibility. Inside, they're rebelling.
For the sake of argument, even young men and women in the East will have the same curiosity, and they will go and experiment. What's the difference? They will also cause damage.
Exactly. What the main difference over here is, even though they experiment, the initial teachings were so strong that most probably chances are that they will come back or they will rehabilitate in some point in time. Especially you must have noticed that teenagers in this part of the world, when they rebel and when later on they get married, most probably they come back to the way they were being parented by their parents and they rehabilitate. However, here you have to understand, if you brought up your children with the idea of a higher authority, God Almighty, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, this will instill a complete different level of internal beliefs compared to somebody, for example, who might be raised, if I can use the term, godless. If we teach the children from the beginning about love of God, fear of God, and putting trust in God, this changes the whole makeup.
Do you mean then you won't need to police your children all the time?
Exactly.
Even if they become independent?
Exactly. This is the whole thing. For example, you have to sell this idea to them that whatever they are doing is to please God Almighty. So, for example, even if the father is in the house or not, they would just not smoke.
It doesn't make a difference.
Yeah. So basically, it's not the father's fear. Okay, it's a higher authority. So even I tell my friends that even when you buy something for your children, okay, tell them, yes, I'm giving it to you, but you made a dua and this is from Allah. So this...
You made a supplication.
Exactly. This concept needs to be planted in their hearts and minds from a very tender age.
That there is a high authority.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Then I think it's time for a short break before we continue with our interesting discussion.
Inshallah.
And we'd like to remind our listeners that they can always join us in our discussions, and they can call us on 24602058. That's 24602058.
The modern family. The modern family.
Dear listeners, we're back with your program, The Modern Family. I'm Hatim Al-Abdussalam, and joining me is Mr. Muhammad Farooq. Muhammad,
Yes.
where were we?
Well, basically we were talking about the ideas of what happens if parenting is not done in the right way on a mass scale. In terms of, for example, what kind of generation would be raised.
Yes. This is a very important point. I will hold this point until later on. Now I just wanted to ask you about when it comes people who limit parenting to instructions.
Right.
What do you like to tell them?
We do see this often, that the relationship between the parents and the children is, don't do this, or do this, or why did you do this, or why you did not do that.
Muhammad, before we continue, why don't we take the time to explain to our children why do we instruct them these instructions?
Exactly. Again, whatever, and by the way, children are very intelligent. We have to give them credit for that. It is better, I agree with you, to tell them why they need to do something instead of just telling them to do something.
Yeah.
And in modern day academia, they tell you the same formula works at office or with your family, if you're talking about your spouse or your friends. Once we know the purpose of an action, we are more motivated, instead of just being like a supply chain and doing the same thing without knowing why you're doing it.
Muhammad, let us transfer it to our workplace.
Right.
When your boss comes and says, Muhammad, I want you to do this.
Yeah.
And when he comes and tells you, Muhammad, what do you think if we do it this way?
Exactly. This is called...
Does it make a difference to you?
Huge difference. Because if you just give me an instruction, you have left me in the dark to figure out the advantages of doing that versus the disadvantages of not doing that. So in a way, you have left some confusion in my mind. But if I make you part of the process and I make you owner of the process, that changes the whole game. The same formula needs to be applied with your children.
Do you think it builds confidence in children?
Definitely. And this is, Hatim, very important point you mentioned. Confidence is a must in children. Some parents view it in a negative way, that, oh, you are just giving too much freedom to your children and now is not the right time. Nurturing confidence in them anytime is the right time. We should encourage them to think. We should guide them, pray for them. However, we must encourage them to make decisions.
Muhammad, you came up with a very interesting concept. The concept is called IKSP.
Right.
And I'm sure our listeners would like to know what it means.
Yeah.
I heard it for the first time today,
Uh-huh.
it sounds very, very interesting, and I'm sure it can be applicable to everyone else. So tell us, what does IKSP means?
Right. Well, I figured out there's not enough acronyms in the world, so I'll introduce one more. No, but this is a very powerful one, and it not only applies to parenting but to other disciplines of life as well. I stands for intention. This is something which is purely religious. Because when you do a deed without thinking about it, it's just a deed. It could be a bad deed, it could be a good deed. The results could be good as per your thinking or planning, or results could be negative. However, when you do the same action with the right intention to please the Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the whole thing changes. So it's the same deed, same setup, same place,
but makes a big difference.
Makes a huge difference.
Okay.
So when we are raising children with the intention of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay, this would give us a higher moral ground.
Muhammad, this is very important. This is big talk, because many times we just raise our kids for the sake of raising them.
Right.
We just got them and
we have to discharge your responsibility.
Yes.
Yeah.
But intention is very, very important.
Exactly.
And it makes a big difference in our life.
Right.
And how our kids grow up and become good citizens is based on that intention.
Exactly. And you know, like I said, this is purely religious. It's said in Islam that innamal a'malu binniyah, means the deeds depend on the intentions. And second one is knowledge, right knowledge.
Yeah, so K is for knowledge.
Exactly. Updated knowledge from the right sources.
Let us emphasize more on that. What do you mean by knowledge?
Okay. Number one, or the top priority, obvious, is to look at the teachings of Quran and Sunnah related to parenting. There are practicals, there are statements, they are documented and cascaded down all the way up to us even after 1435 years.
So basically you're saying is that don't raise your children in ignorance.
Exactly. You see, it's a responsibility. You have been given a task of molding the next generation, like you said, creating standard bearers.
And the instructions are there.
And the instructions are available. Exactly. So you are the only one to blame if you ignore the instructions and you do trial and error. Right?
Okay.
So knowledge is very important. In addition, for example, like I said, in terms of knowledge, there is flexibility. These are basically guidelines. These are best practices. If you do come across something from a worldly point of view, like for example, use of technology to communicate the same message and to cement the same details that you want to give them, you can be flexible. However, the core should be taken from the right knowledge sources.
Yes.
Okay.
Next is S.
S, yeah, again, very important. Supplication. And just like Nia, most of us forget supplication.
Muhammad, when we stop supplicating to Almighty Allah, does this mean we don't need Him?
It's not that. Unfortunately, we get so caught up with the world and the tools available to us that we start feeling that our skills are it. We don't need anything. I'm doing it. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to do it right. And that's it. So again, it brings us back to the relationship with higher authority. If we are constantly aware of our Creator, we will definitely ask Him for help.
Yes.
And the results will be visible.
Yeah.
Right? So this is one of the core differences between, for example, the Muslims and non-Muslims is that number one, we look at parenting not just as a burden. It's not a burden. It's a responsibility. It's an honor. And it's an opportunity for us to attain heaven, to attain countless rewards.
And it's a way to worship.
Exactly. It's a worship, provided it's done with the right intention, coupled with right knowledge, and continuous supplication from the Creator.
We move on to the P.
P is basically practice. So you just don't do it one time and you get frustrated and you said, hey, I tried, my intention was good, I had all the right knowledge.
Well, Muhammad, people say practice makes perfect. If nobody is perfect, why practice?
Well, that's a very interesting way of looking at it. However, like I said, you have to practice it on yourself, on your household. Because see, Hatim, you have to keep in mind, child is the building block of a family.
Yes.
Family is building block of a society. Society is building block of a nation. You see where I'm going with this thing? So it is very, very important that we must have divine help in this precious task. We just cannot do it alone on our own.
What you're saying is very, very interesting, is that we need to practice.
Yeah.
None of us can get up in the morning and become a world champion, gold medalist in 100 meters.
Exactly.
We need to practice.
Exactly.
And parenting is the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a process.
Yeah.
And we have to be patient.
Exactly.
When it comes to parenting.
Yeah.
Because this is the most valuable investment that we're going to do in our entire life.
Exactly.
And our assets are our children.
Right.
And if we are not patient and if we don't keep on practicing until we get it right, then we'll give up very soon on our children. And if we give up on our children, then we have thrown the burden to the community and society.
Exactly.
And that's when the problems start.
Yeah, if you see the culture of foster homes, and of course you have to go back and look at the concept of like single mothers and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Even if you look at it from a purely worldly or secular point of view, most of the children who are brought up with these kind of abnormal households, they tend to be a burden on the state, be it a financial burden, like they will get involved in crimes, theft, burglary, getting drunk in public,
Yeah.
causing all sorts of harms, to the eventual tragedy which is called suicide.
Yeah.
Okay, this is only from a purely worldly point of view. So that brings us to the concept of, like you said, practice and then the whole 9 yards, that we need to constantly keep updating ourselves, our parenting skills, to keep up with times. And if we get it wrong, no issues. Don't worry. Don't collapse. Something doesn't work. Look into it, change it. Again, the guidelines are given to us.
Muhammad, we're moving on to the next point of today's discussion, which is threats. We have two main threats when it comes to parenting. Before we get to the threats, we would like to remind our listeners of our number so that they can call us and join the discussion,
Definitely.
whether they agree or they don't agree with us or just want to make a point of view.
Right.
Our number is 24602058. 24602058.
Yes.
Muhammad, threats.
Mm-hmm.
The first threat is bad parenting. And the okay, let us start with the first threat.
Yeah, definitely. I look at it as the internal threat. Before getting into the blame game and looking outwards, which is in our nature, and blame everybody else except for ourselves, we need to start our own accountability and see what kind of parents we are.
Okay, Muhammad, we have a call. Let us take a call first.
Excellent.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine. We're all very happy and excited. You're our first caller tonight.
Lucky me.
Well, tell us, sister. Who's this?
This is Nasreen.
Yes, Nasreen.
Actually, I don't want to talk about children or about parents. I wanted to, I don't know how to reach the information to you, but I have one problem that I'm in a hurry when I choose a point to reach a point with someone or something, and I judge the people very fast. So I did my best to control my thoughts or to control myself in such a thing. Also, this affects my job, because whenever I see anything wrong happens into my job, I have to say. I can't say, inshallah, hey, wallah. So I don't know what you advise me, Sheikh Mohammed, on such things, because everyone says that Nasreen, with this attitude, you will not reach anywhere. So what do you suggest to me? Do I have to continue in such things, or do I have to say whatever is wrong? Oh, okay, go ahead.
Just to understand your question, sister, you're saying that you have a habit or a way that whenever you see anything wrong, you mention it. You don't keep quiet about it, and people think that and people think that it's a bad attitude from you.
Exactly.
Okay, we got your question. Thank you, sister, for calling.
All
You're
right.
welcome.
Okay. Yes, Sister Nasreen, first of all, thank you for your call. This shows that you have a very caring nature. You see something wrong and you feel very strongly about it and very emotional about it. There is nothing wrong with it. However, what can be improved is your reaction. Or in other words, I would like to say that respond, don't react. For example, if somebody is doing something wrong, you can perhaps talk to them in private meaning where others cannot hear. And you can say, look, you're doing this and this and this, which is wonderful. How about if you do it like this and make it better? So this would not only be constructive criticism, but you will be offering a genuine and sincere advice to him or her. And again, the most important thing, supplicate for them. Make dua for them also. The other thing is, and this is said in reference to parenting also, that try to overlook people's minor faults or things that upset you. Try to look for good in them. We all have khair in us. We all have shar in us. So instead of looking at the glass half empty, try to look at the glass as half full. And encourage others to build upon their capabilities. I am sure they will appreciate it, because if we stop correcting each other, we all know what's going to happen to the society. And this has been told to us by religion as well. So you're not doing anything wrong. However, let's try to improve the way you're doing it.
Muhammad, thank you very much for that. Let us get back to parenting. Okay, the next threat that we wanted to talk about is extinction of parenting. That means when parenting disappears on the face of earth, now that people are stopping from getting married, and you have single parents, and people are being raised by the society,
right.
mainly.
Right.
Okay, so because it's a full-time job, it's not a part-time job. What happens in this case?
Okay, this is a very it could be a separate program by itself. However, there are a number of reasons that the people are choosing not to get married. It has a lot to do with materialism, my life, my idea, my property, my way. That breeds the factor of selfishness. So you see, when we stop making sacrifices, or we get out of the habit of making sacrifices, and parenting is all about sacrifice.
Yes.
Right? You start to become more selfish, and then you don't want to get married, you don't want to have children. And if you look at the statistics on a grand level, a lot of the countries, they are facing a shrinkage of population, despite the fact that you have single mothers, there are countless children out of wedlocks, okay? And this is creating a culture of foster parents. It's making terminologies like stepdad, stepmom very common, to the point where once they enter a phase which we discussed earlier, when they are prone to crimes, you have the midway houses and things of that nature.
And even a lot of kids being raised on the streets, and
exactly,
they what they call it, child labor as well.
Yeah, you have the homeless children or children of the streets, and it's very heartbreaking how they are treated. And there are examples you can read on your own what is done. And when we talk about human trafficking or in that, what they fail to mention is the extremely high percentage of the youth, what we can even classify as children. Some of them have run away from homes, some of them have run away from foster arrangements, some of them never had a home. All sorts of tragic cases are out there.
Muhammad, the next point is blame culture.
Right.
We are experts when it comes to blame.
Oh, yes.
Okay, our failure in our responsibilities does not give us the right to blame external forces.
Right.
We blame the media, we blame the school, we blame the society, we blame technology, we blame dad, mom, we blame every single thing that comes into our mind.
Yeah.
But who is the first person to be blamed? Is the person in the mirror.
Right. And generally he's the last one to be blamed or never blamed. You see, coming back to this idea, when we have children, we're very happy. However, most of us by nature want to run away from responsibility. Okay? So what do? We throw them on a nanny. It doesn't matter how great she is, how well paid she is. She just won't have that motherly feelings towards.
She's not mom.
She's not mom.
And she'll never be mom.
She can't be the substitute of mom. So that warmth is not there. Then we throw them in front of the one-eye babysitter called the television.
Before we move to the television,
Right.
sometimes nannies are more warm than mom, and the kids become more attached to nanny than mom.
Well, yeah.
But that is even a greater
threat.
A threat, yeah. But that will keep another session for that.
I hear you. I hear you.
Okay. Yeah. The one-eye devil television.
Exactly. So we throw them in front of the telly, and we expect that they will turn out perfect.
Yeah.
At a very young age, instead of keeping them at home till the age of 6 or 7 or 8 and giving them tarbiyah and talim and the basics and the relationship with a higher authority, we throw them out in a nursery.
Yeah.
So in all stages, we don't want to sacrifice. We throw money on what we look at as a problem instead of spending time looking at what is an opportunity, right? And when it's too late, like you said, we will blame their friends. He learned bad manners at school. He picked this up from the internet. He saw this on the TV. This is from the neighbor's house. But we will never look, like you said, in the mirror.
Muhammad, money versus time.
Right.
We always get confused between these two, and we think that we being good parent is when we spend and we provide a comfortable home and a living for our children. So we provide them with a fancy house, a good car, clothes, the best schools, the best food, the best weekend, the latest mobile phone. Then we are good parents. But what about time? Do we give our children enough time and enough attention? Even 5 minutes of your time, giving full attention away from your mobile phone, away from anything else, just for that kid makes a big difference. Don't you think so?
I agree. Let me say a couple of things on this. First of all, thanks to the technology and social media, we can't even give 5 minutes of attention to ourselves, real focus attention. Second thing is, just lavishing them with money is not the solution. We have to keep in mind time is more precious than money. Money comes and money goes, time doesn't come back. So once they grow up, they will not have fond memories of you if you have not spent time with them at the right time.
Yes.
Okay? So just spending money on them is one part of the puzzle, but the most important aspect is the time.
Muhammad, we're running out of time, and I can see that from my notes that we have a lot we have not covered.
Right.
But we'll just go to the most important things.
Okay.
Is the higher vision of parents to raise a pious kid.
Exactly.
We all lack this vision.
Definitely.
We have the vision of having our kids to be doctors, engineers, lawyers, successful businessmen, A-grade students. But what about having them as pious children?
Okay, Hatem, very interesting question and a perfect way to kind of close this very energetic session. We have to see that average is the top of the bottom or bottom of the top. So be outstanding. And looking at from a religious point of view, from an Islamic point of view, you have been given the responsibility to raise the next generation of Muslims, the torch bearers, the standard bearers of the future. Okay? This one statement should be enough for you to revisit the whole environment and the whole scenario and set the priorities right and start again.
We keep on forgetting, Muhammad, that the biggest investment that we have in this world is our children.
Exactly.
And the Prophet, peace be upon him, said that they are, when a person dies, there are 3 things that remain into his account.
Exactly.
And one of them is a pious son or daughter
Definitely.
that will supplicate and pray for them. And this should be a goal for each and every one of us.
Exactly.
But we forget that.
Right. And I really appreciate this program as a reminder that I always tell my friends, your children are your best assets. You should be very jealous about how you raise them with the best of the ways, with the best of the schooling, with the best of the upbringing. Because once you're gone and your deed stops, hopefully, inshallah, like you said, they will supplicate for you and get the thing going.
We have run out. We have run out of time, Muhammad. I hope and I wish that we could continue on and to discuss more points regarding parenting. But inshallah, we'll have future talks together,
inshallah,
and more discussions about this. I would like to end with one thing, which is hope. We should have hope in our children.
Yes.
And the biggest lesson that we can verify about hope is the story of Prophet Noah, when he knew from the beginning that his son was a disbeliever until the last minute of before the typhoon or cyclone came in. He never gave up on his child.
Exactly.
And we should be the same.
Exactly.
Engineer Muhammad Farouk, thank you very much for accepting the invitation to be
My pleasure,
the
Hatem.
first guest in our show tonight.
I'm honored.
And I hope our listeners will have enjoyed today's session.
Inshallah.
See you next week, inshallah, on Thursday, 7 to 8. I'm your host, Hatem Al-Absalam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. See you next time.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.